Children's rights. Scotland is to incorporate the UN's Convention on the Rights of the Child into law to the maximum extent possible within the powers of the Scottish Parliament. The UNCRC is the most complete statement of children's rights ever produced and sets out the rights of every child, irrespective of where they live, their religion, their makeup of their society, including the rights relating to health and education, fair and equal treatment, and the right to be heard. Come back onto that soon enough. Speaking on the 30th anniversary of the convention, through the responses to our consultation, it's clear there is widespread support for directly and fully incorporating all of the rights set out in the convention. This approach will mean that the Convention on the Rights of the Child is enshrined directly into Scots law, representing a huge step forward for the protection of children's rights in Scotland. Every devolved body, every health board, every council and the Scottish Government itself will be legally obliged to make sure they respect children's rights. And if they don't, children and young people will be able to use the courts to enforce their rights. I hope the example of Scotland incorporating the convention will spur the UK and other countries to follow suit, because Scotland seems to be the UN's bitch at this point. Trafficking typically exposes children to continuous and severe risks of harm, involving the recruitment, transportation, harbouring and/or receipt of a child for the purpose of exploitation. Children are trafficked for a number of reasons within and between countries and continents. They may be trafficked for one type of exploitation but sold into another. Whilst in some circumstances it is clear that a child or young person has been a victim of child trafficking, it's often difficult to establish directly if an unaccompanied child presenting in Scotland has been a victim. Given this, an unaccompanied or separate child, or children, have often been displaced from their homes due to violence, trauma, etc. etc. They are considered vulnerable to being exploited or trafficked during their migratory journeys once in Europe. The harm children may experience once they are displaced and separated has a severe impact on their physical and emotional well-being. International research has shown that unaccompanied trafficked children benefit enormously from guardianship arrangements, etc. 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 All unaccompanied and trafficked children and young people have the same right to care and support as any other child in Scotland. Section 25 of the Children Act of 1995, local authorities have a duty to provide any child or young person who presents in their area and for whom no individual holds parental rights and responsibilities. But now, thanks to the UNCRC, it now incorporates children who claim to be refugees and/or asylum seekers or whatever it may be. Now, on the face of it, that might not necessarily be the worst thing in the world, but when you consider the fact that put into practice yet, parties shall take appropriate measures to ensure that a child who seeks refuge or who is considered a refugee in accordance with applicable international or domestic law, they're unaccompanied or accompanied by his or her parents or by any other person, receive appropriate protection and humanitarian assistance in the enjoyment of applicable rights set forth in the present convention. Parties shall provide, as they consider appropriate, cooperation in any efforts by the UN and other competent intergovernmental organisations cooperating with the UN to protect and assist such a child and to trace their parents or other members of the family of any refugee quote-unquote child in order to obtain information necessary for reunification. In cases where parents or other members of the family can't be found, the child should be accorded the same protection as any other child permanently or temporarily deprived of his or her family environment. He's recognised the right of the child to education, and with a view to achieving this right progressively, quote-unquote, and on the basis of equal opportunity, they shall in particular make primary education compulsory and available. State parties agree that the education of the child shall be directed to the development of the child's personality, talents and mental and physical abilities, the development of respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms, and the principles enshrined within the Charter of the UN. Scotland, where children are recognised as citizens in their own rights, and where their human rights are embedded in all aspects of society, is the vision we aspire to. A Scotland where policy, law and decision making take account of children's rights, and where all children have a voice, and are empowered to be human rights defenders. Young rights defenders on climate strike. In the last 2 months, children and young people across the world have been making headlines by going on climate strikes to regurgitate what they were taught in school a few months prior, where they missed school for a day to protest around lack of action on non-existent man-made climate change. By doing this, they hope adults in power become more aware of how serious an issue this is for younger generations. Well, The term problem, reaction, solution springs to mind. Still, young people's thoughts and views is common throughout society, even among young voters. And young people have told us there's a stigma attached to defending human rights. In Scotland, local authorities have a duty to embed learning about the UN's Convention on the Rights of the Child into education, of course. But young people have told us that in practice they're not learned as much about rights as they would want. Oh, sounds riveting. Sounds fucking riveting. The principles of the UN CRC are therefore taken into account in the development of relevant Scottish Government policies, strategic frameworks, action plans and other key documents. A non-exhaustive list of summaries and links to some of these key documents and policy initiatives is provided. Global citizenship. Getting it right for every child. Equality. Equality again. Race equality. Race equality. Race equality. Violence against women and girls. Violence against women and girls. Female genital mutilation. Equalities Action Plan for modern apprenticeships in Scotland. Providing young disabled people with the highest level of modern apprenticeship funding. Respect that I may very well have had for the idea of giving disabled people a helping hand into the workplace has immediately disappeared when you start this BS. Ethnic intersectionality incentive. Wonders never cease to fucking amaze me. Climate Ready Scotland's a climate change adaptation programme, and it's got the gall to not only mention sustainable developments, but to mention down here enhancing their experience of the outdoors in a way that will deliver benefits to young people. And the 2050 Young Malawi Climate Leaders Project is designed to build a network of young people who will be active in advocating for action on climate change. Sustainability Action Plan, developing a strategic national approach to learning for sustainability, adopting a curriculum and assessment guidance to provide further opportunities for learning for sustainability, increasing skills and confidence of practitioners in relation to learning for sustainability, ensuring that education leaders and decision makers understand the value of learning for sustainability, and adopting the learning estate to allow increased opportunities for the delivery of learning for sustainability. The Scottish Government will soon publish a culture strategy for Scotland that will set out a vision and priorities for the future development of culture in Scotland, with the final strategy aiming to recognise the fundamental value of culture and its transformative and empowering potential, with everyone in Scotland, including children and young people, having an equal opportunity to experience what the fuck does that mean. Gets that Sustainable Development Goal 4, ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. Ensuring that all boys and girls complete free, equitable and quality primary and secondary education. Ensuring that all boys and girls have access to quality childhood development care and pre-primary education. Ensuring equal access for all women and men to affordably disparities in education and ensure equal access to all levels of education, training for the vulnerable. Ensure that all youth and substantial proportion of adults achieve literacy and numeracy. Ensure that all learners acquire the knowledge and skills needed to promote sustainable development, among others, through education for sustainable development and sustainable lifestyles, human rights, gender equality, promotion of culture of peace and non-violence, others, through education for sustainable development and sustainable lifestyles, human rights, gender equality, promotion of culture of peace and non-violence, global citizenship, and the appreciation of cultural diversity. Yes, promote global citizenship, promote diversity, promote human rights, promote what the UN wants, promote the New World Order, and it's now enshrined in fucking law. Inequality within and among countries, reason, and hidden within the word salad. Facilitation of mass migration. People must be recognised as agents of change, with much to offer, taking action to implement the 2030 agenda. Become a global citizen today. Yep. Become a global citizen today,